Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. JS Dwayne here. Today's date is November the 12th, 2020. I just want to say happy Veterans Day to all the military people out there that served for our country and died for our country as a whole. And I have military people in my family that served our country. My older brother, my second older brother, and his two kids, his daughter and his son. And also my father, he served the military in Germany back in the early 1980s, way before I was even born. And I just want to say happy Veterans Day to all the people that served our country, throughout all the generations, even throughout the years. And also, I did a Veterans Day video last year in November, the same day. Well, a year and a day later in today's video, but I did a video, respecting the troops that really served our country and was there when our government was so corrupt during that time period and so forth. But in today's video, I want to talk about how I feel about unions and marriages. It's been on my mind for quite a while, and I'm gonna talk about it and how I feel about it. I have, siblings that are married, three of them that, were married, and most of them are about 20 years older than me, and I look up to them when it comes to, marriage because every one of them is married. Well, one of them is not married no more. I think my oldest brother, my second oldest brother, got divorced a while ago, and he was together with his wife for like over 20 years and had a lot of children. Some were adopted, but he had a lot of children with his ex-wife at that time. And then my older brother married over 30 years, way before I was even born. Then my older sister, she got married back when I was like 11 years old, like in the late 90s. So I look up to them when it comes to marriages because, I grew up in a divorced household, and my mom, she didn't really had men coming back and forth in our life because my mother was the mother and father in our lives. And, in a way, I actually respect my mom for this because, there are some people out there that put their significant others before their children. And I feel like that should never happen in that type of way because I feel like it's just selfish. Think about the stuff that you do before actually doing them. And, and I'm happy that my mom didn't really do that to us, which is a very good thing. And that's probably why I'm just a very rounded type of person in today's society, despite me being very young. But other than that, I always look up to my older siblings because, I was always around my older sister, not my two older siblings, not my two older brothers. It's because, they had their own families, despite the fact that they was married, and my middle older brother was in the military, as I mentioned earlier, and I look up to them, and I was around my older sister a lot more because, back in the day, she was in Westchester County, near New York City. So we go to Westchester probably once a year, like every few years. But I think the last time I was in Westchester was in 2007. This is probably before I even graduated out of high school. But I always look up to them, and and especially every couple, they have their own differences. Not everything is peaches and cakes. There's couples that argue, and that's a part of a relationship. And if you don't argue in a relationship, it's probably going to deem as boring. And, and every marriage or relationship, have their ups and downs. And I could see there's some couples out there that, try to work on a relationship that sometimes they separate and, they be separate for like a while, but they're still legally married. And, I think, during that time, you should never, get with someone who's in a relationship because you don't want that to happen to you, because karma, as you call it, or when what goes around comes around, you know, you just have to be very careful what you do, and that's what I was trying to avoid, because I don't want that to happen to me, because I always look up to them when it comes to marriages. And I'm from a southern family on my mom's side, and we just don't like going after people who's taken, I rather have my own, person to deal with instead of being with somebody else's significant other. You know what I mean? Because it could be very messy, and we just don't like doing that in my family. I don't know about any other people's families, but we just don't like doing that, because it could come right back on you, and I don't want that to happen to me or anybody else in my family. But we just don't do that, and we just leave people's relationships alone, and because we have our own lives to deal with, and they have their own. So if anybody that is in a relationship trying to get with a single person and knowing that they're in a relationship, that person should avoid it and keep it moving, because I know that it could carry a whole lot of baggage. And I'm very happy for my older siblings, because things can go south, here and there. And I just don't want to interfere with anybody's relationship, despite the fact if they going through a lot of hell in their relationship. Because I remember in one of the videos that I did a while ago, I was mentoring about an ex of mine's, who lived here within the Hamlin, Grace, Hilton area, and he was, filed for divorce, and he was still legally married. And and at the time, I'm like, the person was very good looking, my ex, he was very good looking. But at the time, I wasn't really thinking like this might affect the other individual being involved. And I'm like to myself, I'm like, I would never, ever, get with somebody who's not available, because it could be messy, and it would be a lot of problems, and it would cause a whole lot of unhappiness. And I was unhappy for like a while, and I was like to myself, like, I'm never gonna do this again. And I just didn't want to make any type of errors, and that's why I'm like, I rather leave people who's in a relationship problems alone and deal with my own and back away, because there's so many different people out there, you know what I mean? So many people out there. And you know I feel like marriage, is a very sacred union between two people who's in love. And back in the day, it was between a man and a woman, you know what I mean? And there's some people that didn't agree with alternative lifestyles or marriages during that time, especially when I was a kid. And LGBT marriage got legalized back in 2011 in New York. I don't know where in this country it has been legalized, but in New York it's been like 2011. And I went to the march thing, the conference thing regarding the marriage bill back that May in Albany, and I remember the day like nobody's business. But nowadays, there's so many different people with different sexual orientations: gay men, lesbian women, bisexual men and bisexual women, transgender people, even queer people, even pansexual people. There's so many of them that is getting married to their own partners nowadays. And love is love. And there's some people out there that that judge people that are very different and stuff like that. And there's people still out there like that even towards this day, and you can't really change people's opinions. And I had this conversation with my older brother, my first older brother, the other day. And my brother, as I mentioned, is open up towards it, but he still have his own views, because he was raised in a southern environment where everything was very conservative. And I think I was the first in the family to break that mold. But there's some other, people in my family that is LGBT, not just myself. But love is love nowadays. And and I learn not to discriminate against other people that are different, because that can always happen to you. And I learn not to try to change people in their views, because it's not going to work in the long run. But I just felt that marriage should be a sacred union towards people that is in love with one another. And and this is for anybody that is heterosexual, or people that are part of the LGBT community. You know what I mean? And it's, a very different, atmosphere today compared to back then. Because, you know, I felt that, marriage should be, you know, set on commitment. You know what I mean? And it's not about you anymore. And like, I don't know if I can picture myself married, is because it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's just work, and I'm not married at all. I've never been married, so I don't know how it feels to be married because I've never been in that situation. But I feel like it's not about you anymore, and you can't really be selfish at all. You cannot be selfish, and you have to care about the other person that you're married to. You know what I mean? And there's many married couples that have their problems, and everything is not peaches nor cakes. And like, you don't even have to be married. Like, there's common law marriages, and this is for anybody that been together for over 6+ years. And I think that's what you call a common law marriage, is when you've been with somebody for so long but you're not legally married. That's what a common law marriage is. Like, this is for anybody. You could be heterosexual, homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, whatever. Like, it could refer to anybody, and they've been in these relationships for years. And there's sometimes it's like, I feel like I'm married, but in reality, I'm really not married at all. You know, and I never heard of that, at all until I got older. I think when I was like in my early 20s, I heard about common law marriages, and I just didn't feel like it was just really that important. Like, you could be with somebody all your life and don't even have to be married to them, but it could refer to anybody who's in a marriage, who's in a relationship, or who've been together for so long, who consider their relationship to be part of a marriage, even though it's common law marriage. You know what I mean? And as I said earlier, I don't know how it feels to be married because I've never been in that position. And I don't know if I picture myself married. If I become married, more power to myself. If I don't, it's all good. You know what I mean? And I'm not rushing. I'm young. I'm going to enjoy the life the way that I want to enjoy it and explore. You know what I mean? And this is not the end of the world, for me or other people that are, single. And I just feel that I have to, really work on myself before I give my all to someone who wants to be loved or anything like that. So I have to give my all towards someone who deserves it. You know what I mean? You know, and I just felt that, a marriage and a union should be a commitment where a couple is in love with one another, who wants to be married or anything like that. And there's some couples that don't want to be married because they don't want to go through what they went through in their past relationships. And, you know, as I said earlier, I always look up to my siblings when it comes to, marriages or anything. And I learn not to involve myself with people who's married and you're not married or anything like that. Just back away from it. And, and I just, like, I don't want to go through the same mistakes that some people in relationships go through. And I learn from my mistakes, and I just, learn, what to do and what not to do. And as I said, a lot of people say that they know what they want, but some of them don't know what they want because they have to really go through something for them to really want something. So I feel that, anybody can get married. It doesn't matter what sexual orientation you are. If you're really in love with that person, be with that person for the rest of your life or anything like that, if that's the case. All right, you guys. Peace and love to everybody, and you guys have a very good morning, day, or night, wherever you at, you guys. You guys be safe out there during the quarantine times. All right, good day, people, and peace to all.